Is Jamie, and this morning I have Dazzling Dave on camera with me, who is turning a delicate shade of blue. Oh, that's just the balaclava that he's wearing to try to live from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserves in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And forgive me because I actually can't really turn. I've got so many layers on. I feel a little bit like that marshmallow man in the Ghostbusters, or possibly the Michelin Man. I'm not sure if the Michelin Man is a cultural reference that extends past South Africa. And speaking of references that extend past South Africa, a happy July the 4th to all of the American viewers out there. I hope you have a wonderful day in store for you all. And we will be doing a special July the 4th sunset safari, where James and myself will be having some kind of competition. I'm not entirely sure what it will be. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. And we will also be doing a very special fireside chat in the normal style of fireside chat. Hope you're all excited about that. We're going to be doing lots of stuff on cubs because even though we've spoken a lot about little baby animals, we've got so many of them and they've been so incredibly adorable that we just have to share them with you once again. And not only are we live, we're only barely alive at this point, we're also interactive, which means send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or email them through to questions@WildEarthTV. It is 8 degrees this morning on this crisp and clear beautiful day, which means 48 in Fahrenheit for those of you that way inclined, and 281 degrees Kelvin for those of you who are that way inclined, perhaps the scientists out there. I thought that by saying 281 degrees I might feel a little bit warmer, but I definitely don't. Dave described it this morning when he saw what I was carrying. He said I was packing heat. So I'm actually packing heat, everybody, and what we mean by that is that I've got a very bright pink hot water bottle underneath my jacket. It's terribly warm. Siberia Zumi, on the subject of being cold and wrapped up, Siberia Zumi says that they think that there is a squirrel sleeping on top of my head. Well, it is very cold. Siberia Zumi, you're not alone in that definition. James is very rude about my hat. He says I stole the pom-pom from the poor lion that he saw recently. I know the hat's ridiculous, but it is incredibly warm and cozy, and it provides a lovely neat spot for my microphone. Hold on, you'll hear it now. Oh, where's it gone? Oh, there it is. The only minor problem with this beanie, as lovely as it is, and thank you of course to Kirsty for it, is the fact that it is attempting at all times of the day to creep its way down to my left eyelid. But that's alright, we haven't quite there yet. I'll try and push it up a little bit. It's much better than the previous one that looked utterly ridiculous and attempted to bounce its way off my head. So there we go, the wardrobe woes of going out in the bright, fresh, cold morning. While Dave and I, in theory, go quickly off to the east, we're not going to be going terribly quickly because it's freezing. But while we make our way to the east, let us head over to the wonderful James so that he can say a bright and friendly good morning.
Good morning. Hello. It's very cold today. About 8 degrees centigrade, 47 degrees Fahrenheit. Viam Dorenbrock is filming us today. He's dressed in a number of different colours, woolly colours. In fact, all woolly garments that he could find in his room he has placed upon his person, including a rather intimidating looking maroon balaclava. Viam, does that have a history?
A friend gave it to me.
A friend gave it to him.
He gave me a superhero costume for my birthday.
I see.
That was part of it.
Right, okay. There it is. Very nice. Good morning, everyone. You're most welcome on our little dawn jaunt this morning. We're heading sort of down towards where Karula was seen yesterday. That's our 12-year-old female leopard. Provides the bulk of our viewing. Wonderful lady that she is. And her two cubs, who are now just over 5 months old, George and Charlotte. To all of you in America, you are still in yesterday, but an early little happy 4th of July to you for later on today. And we, of course, will be playing our little game this afternoon in honour of the 4th of July. We won't probably be setting off too many fireworks, but hopefully the fireworks will be provided by the animals that we see this afternoon. I think that's all I have to tell you. My name's James, by the way, in case you didn't know. And please do talk to us. Hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV. Let's see what happens along here. We also might be lucky to find those lions today. There are lots of vehicles out, and Herbert is also out tracking. So the lions we might see. A slightly odd... quite odd situation last night with a female lion trying to mate with another female lion and a male lion trying to mate with that female lion. But yeah, we're not really sure how to explain it. The sort of blanket explanation for all of those sorts of situations is, well, it must be a dominance display. I don't know what the situation is. Very fascinating that we saw yesterday. And then likewise, we think that lioness has brought her cubs from Torchwood on to Djuma, so we might be lucky there. Herbert is going to go and look around there and also help us try and track Karula and her youngsters. So, some good prospects for the morning. It always makes me a little nervous when there are prospects for the morning. So I'd almost rather come out with no prospects, because then you're deeply surprised and overjoyed when you do bump into something. This is the it's the distressing feeling of expectation that creates disappointment if you don't find things. But it's going to be a beautiful day. Of that there is no question. Because while it is cold, a very large bird just flew out of the very large torchwood tree, which you didn't see, and therefore I shall have to tell you about it. I think it looked like an African hawk eagle that was sitting in this tree here. In fact, there's one calling there. Hello Shamsung, good morning to you, and thank you for coming on the Dawn Safari with us despite the temperature. Shamsung, you want to know when it's going to start warming up in the mornings. Shamsung, it's only, those are hornbills that flew out, it's only going to warm up probably at the end of this month. And then it will remain coolish till the end of August, whereafter, I mean, summer arrives in a day, and then it will be hot forever. So probably end of the month it will start to get a bit warmer. And then we'll have the odd cold snap sort of during August and September, but largely it'll be hot in September. There are some hyena tracks around the place. That strident yelling call you can hear is the southern grey hornbill. Very sad. There is the sun, everybody, about to peep up over the horizon. That's pretty much northeast where you're looking now. The sun much more with you in the northern hemisphere than it is with us here in the south. And it was now slowly making its gentle migration to the south for our summer. But that's not for some time yet, don't worry. I'm just going to survey the surrounds with my powerful binoculars. See if I can see anything. You've got tired of the sun, have you?
It's not there yet.
It's not there yet, but it will be soon. So the only dawn chorus is coming from the strident yelling of the woodwind section provided by the hornbills. There's very little else, no doves calling. I guess they're sort of a more summer sound. One or two red and yellow-billed hornbills going which is always quite a nice sound. But otherwise all is pretty sort of subdued. I'm just trying to see if we can hear something else. Listen out for the woodpecker. Bearded woodpecker going Beautiful. Isn't that nice? I think it might be worth sitting here just a few minutes and wait for the sun to actually pop up. Liam, this is your favourite, isn't it? You love doing this. Liam is of the general opinion, everyone, that we should be looking for big cats. There it is, Liam. Do you see it? Marvellous. Well spotted, Liam. Naturally, I didn't get it coming up because I couldn't focus on it, but it's okay.
You didn't focus on the sun.
No. You know I'm a poor photographer, Liam. You mustn't make fun of that. That's very pretty. The world bathed in a new day. Isn't it amazing that you can actually see it moving? I always find that quite astounding. Very nice. Peaceful. You can hear the orioles calling. Now you can hear the sound of a crested barbet, like a little alarm. It's also very sort of subdued but expectant. Move on now, everybody. Let's just wait for the whole of the orb to come up. It's almost up here. Then we can go and look for big cats, I promise. Is this hurting your soul?
I'm enjoying it. Just wish I could have zoomed in more.
And I think it's up. Alright, everybody. I think we can probably successfully move on from here. Right. Now, Justin, you say you're going to celebrate the 4th of July tomorrow. Yes. What are the important celebrations here? We have a few, what we call public holidays, what they call in Britain bank holidays, and I think what you would just call holidays. We have a few of them here. I suppose the most important ones would be the 24th of April, I think it's the 24th of April, which is our sort of celebration of... It's very distressing to find. Hang on a second, Justin. Give me one second. Me and my leggy blanket. Some deeply irksome imbecile has dropped a can there. Justin, 24th of April is the day that we celebrate I suppose what did we say, the dawn of the democratic era in South Africa. So that was in 1994 that we had our first democratic elections here in South Africa. So that's a very important day. And I think I've actually forgotten what it's called. I think it's called Freedom Day, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have the 24th of September, which is called Heritage Day. And that's where we celebrate our multicultural country. So, I mean, you know that we're made up of 11 official languages and various dialects within those languages. And, I mean, there are a number of population groups who do not necessarily whose ancestors don't come from here. So there's a lot of Congolese and Zimbabweans that live here, or originally Congolese and Zimbabwean. My heritage is Scottish. Viam's heritage is Afrikaner, and so you'd celebrate that on the 24th of September. Then what else do we? We've got lots of them. I guess another one would be the 16th of December, which I think is known as the Day of Reconciliation. That's right. Yeah, those are the most important ones. There's also the you know what, one of the most important ones is probably the 16th of June, which is Youth Day. That's the one we've just finished. And Youth Day, of course, is the day that we celebrate the protesting students from 1976. And it was then that the sort of seeds, I guess, of the death of apartheid were sown. So that's an important day for us. Right, let's head across to Jamie. I think she's on Cheetah Plains. Let's find out what she's found there.
Oh, your update is that we've nearly made it to Cheetah Plains. Slightly slower journey than we might otherwise have done, just in case we both die of hypothermia somewhere along the way. But there we go, perfect timing. We have arrived at the Cheetah Plains Lodge sign. And we will be heading along the driveway shortly. Here you go. Cheetah Plains. That way. I'm going to go that way. Now Dave looks as though he's about to commit some kind of bank robbery, but a bank robbery in sort of maybe in the Arctic somewhere, which is very different from Dave's standard look, because Dave generally on your average day looks as though he might be at home along the sort of cafes of Cape Town, possibly carrying a surfboard. Can you surf, Dave?
I can try.
You can try. You have to learn to surf, Dave. Anybody with long curly hair like you has to learn to surf. Ooh, I think the cold's affected my brain. I feel for the cameraman too, Sally, watching in Oregon. Now I know that all of you, of course, are... Oh, not all of you. A lot of you come from places where the temperature drops very much below what we are experiencing now. Just sit in the back of an open vehicle, as Dave does, and feel the full effect of the wind chill factor, which probably drops the temperature at least 5 degrees, maybe even up to 10, depending on how fast we're going. And it's more difficult, you know, at least all I've really got to do, so it's pretty standard. I move a steering wheel and I move a gear stick. Dave's got all the little fiddly things on the camera that he's got to somehow manage with frozen fingers. So Sally, in Oregon, I completely agree with you. They are very brave and intrepid men, our cameramen, surviving the extremes of the climate out here. Definitely a chilly prospect. And I've just encountered several American guests on our way to Cheetah Plains, and a couple of European guests as well. And they all have their blankets right up to their chins, and they look absolutely positively freezing. Healthy, brisk, cold air. It's so cold, we have an expression in South Africa, it's so cold that the farmers in the Lowveld are wearing 2 pairs of shorts. You could apply that same theory to James. I definitely feel as though someone should buy that man a pair of long trousers. He just refused to wear them though. He likes his shorts. He does have a leg blankie though. Okay, we'll stop talking about how cold it is, I promise. I'm just going to try and find every high spot that I can while we're on Cheetah Plains. How do you feel about things, Drongo? Oh, fair enough, I guess. That's how the Drongo feels about things. Oh, you got him. Well done. Dave with his eagle eyes. Our cameramen do have them. All the birds have been so vocal this morning. The nightjars were chirping away. For those of you watching the Djuma Dam camera, you might have heard them. The Drongo is looking very puffed up. Sort of double the size it might usually look. I'm not sure what's got them all so excited, but the birds are definitely most, as James described it, most vociferous. in this bright early morning. I think it's because the wind has stopped. I think they're just happy they don't have to try and battle that particular aspect of the weather. Basking in the sunlight, as we will shortly be doing. We will have to, in a few moments, we will have to go through the dip close to the Cheetah Plains Lodge, which means we will lose you, but you can accompany us until we get to that particular area. So that, for new viewers, is a fork-tailed drongo, and it is one of the first ones that you will add to your budding bird list. And what we always encourage our viewers to do is to keep a list of the different birds. It of course doesn't have to be birds, it can be mammals, amphibians, although I'll be mighty impressed with you if you manage to spot an amphibian in the middle of winter. But amphibians, reptiles, insects, if you are keen on that sort of thing, if you're budding entomologists. But definitely the bird list is something that we aim to help viewers build up in the time that they watch our live safaris, because there are so many wonderful birds out here. So while we do sort of navigate the signal black hole that is right outside Cheetah Plains Lodge, let's go back over to James and see how his search for the royal family is going.
Good morning again, everyone. I have not found the royal family yet, but I am searching very fervently along this road, where you can see the sun has turned from l'orange to yellow. It's very, very pretty indeed, and it is warming my face. No tracks here. Now I've come along here because I thought maybe Karula would cross to her favourite milkberry tree over there. But she was in this block. She was last left knocking about in there sometime yesterday evening. So we'll keep looking here to see if she crosses. Herbert is around there somewhere, having a look as well. Hello, Texas Tweed. This is quite a common inquiry about black leopards, and I suppose it will become even more common as the Jungle Book makes its presence known. Texas Tweed, you want to know about black leopards and whether they occur in this area? In theory they could. Now a black leopard is the same as a normal leopard, it's just got an increased amount of melanin. So it's just got a different colour skin that is more adaptive or more adaptively useful, if you like, for forested or very shady areas. Now, in this area, of course, it's largely savanna woodland, and so the light is more dappled, and being a black leopard is not going to confer some kind of hunting advantage. So there are you hear rumours every so often of a black leopard being seen, but highly unlikely here. Up around the forested areas of the Highveld or on the escarpment in the mountains, so just to the west of us, around the Leidenberg region, or Mashingshing as it's now called, you might find black leopards, and black leopards have certainly been seen around there, but not here, no. Up into North Africa, or not North Africa, up into the Central African regions in the Congo Basin, you'll find there a lot more forests, and so you'll find black leopards there. And of course, if you go off to a place like India, where the leopards live in largely forested areas, the chances of you seeing a black leopard are much higher than they would be over here. Nice one, thank you, Texas Tweed. What we're going to do is stop at the next junction and just have a little bit of a listen, see if we can hear anything. I have, of course, not been looking now to the right-hand side, but that's okay. Let's stop over here and just have a listen and see if we can hear maybe the crunching of bones or the alarm calling of impalas. You can hear a chin spot batters. I tell you, it's so peaceful sitting here with the sun on one's face. You can also hear what's known as a brown-crowned chagra going. That's its wings beating. And then it'll go crup, crup. Not much else though. Okay, well, let's carry on. Then that's two sunrise shots you've done in a day.
That wasn't really a sunrise shot, that was a landscape shot.
A landscape shot. Okay, well done. I think you are progressing. We have, of course, everybody, unless the giraffe happens to be in an inescapable position, will not put the camera onto giraffe. He finds them deeply boring. Why is that, Liam? Because they don't do much. Right, okay, fair enough.
Like a flat cat.
Like a flat cat. Okay, let's see what else we can find through here. Oh, you know what's quite interesting? I learned so much from Herbert yesterday. I did a walk yesterday afternoon, if you weren't watching, and we did it with Herbert, and Herbert is a wealth of local knowledge. Now you can go, you can go to any number of books around here. Any tree book that you find will tell you that local people, or use trees for various things. And then you ask local people, and they say, "What are you talking about? We've never used it for that, or certainly nobody uses those sorts of trees for that particular medicinal purpose these days." So Herbert is a wealth of knowledge because he is within the culture that is still using so many of these trees in traditional ways for traditional medicine. Now, Viam and I have a particularly, we have a particularly worst tree, don't we, Viam? Known as?
Strychnos?
Strychnos, that's it, Strychnos madagascarensis. And were that to disappear from the earth, we don't both feel that the world would be a much poorer place for it. But Herbert tells me that this is an extremely important tree, and I'll just, obviously now I can't find it, it's everywhere. But it's an extremely important tree for people who have birthmarks, and what they do is, I will find you a piece of this tree, I promise, it's not a particularly impressive tree. They take the roots, burn them up, crush that, and then mix it with a berry called a wild medlar. And then what you do is, if a child's got a particularly sort of disfiguring birthmark, you make incisions on the birthmark and you rub that ash and the berry juice into the birthmark, and apparently it will disappear. Whether or not it works or not, he swears blind it does. So I've no reason to doubt the veracity of the story. Naturally, I cannot find you a strychnos now, despite the fact that they occur in forests here that make the windy, impenetrable forest of Uganda look like a gentle savanna. Fear not, I will find one. Where? If I can't even see an elephant, how am I going to find a strychnos tree? No, there are a number of elephants. Well done, Viam. Now you can film those, you don't have to film the sun anymore. And there's that elephant peacefully feeds. You might be able to hear the sound of the white-crested helmet shrike. The flock feeding through the woodland. She has got an impressively long left tusk, not quite so impressively long right one. It's quite a big herd. Now she's talking to us there. She's just lifting her head, opening her ears and saying, "Now, what do you guys want? Why have you stopped there? Why have you not moved on?" So she's just assessing us, deciding whether or not we're a threat. And she's by no means being aggressive at all. I wonder if this isn't that enormous herd. There do seem to be quite a few of them in the background there. I just recognize her tusks. And I wonder if she isn't the part of that herd with the cow that has that enormously long tusk on her left and nothing on the right. She seemed to be the matriarch of the herd. Now she's decided she's going to come and take a slightly closer look. If she decides she'd like to take a really close look, we'll probably just move off. There's a little youngster trying to suckle. This is wonderful. I always think it must be so difficult to... I mean, you know, human babies, they're picked up and they're nursed and they're, you know, burped, and it's all a great big palaver to try and feed a human child. An elephant must just walk with mum, and mum may or may not decide to stop, and then baby must grab a quick drink. She seems to be pretty relaxed. The rest of the herd is coming this way, so we're just going to wait here and see what she does. You'll probably hear my voice getting quieter as she gets closer. Don't want to create any kind of consternation. Look at the little one now smelling us, deciding. He's also deciding if we're a threat. He or she. Almost impossible to tell when they're that age. Oh, and there's an even smaller one coming through. That one is probably only about 4 feet tall and is, I would say, about 18 months old. And the little one that we saw suckling, that one that Liam's on now, that one's probably about 2.5. Well, maybe 2. Interestingly, no tusks have erupted yet, so probably then a little cow. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the bull's tusks erupt when they're about 18 months old. This is fantastic. The whole herd is coming slowly, slowly towards us, bathed in the golden dawn light. Now the little one's just caught a whiff of us. I don't know if you saw that. She lifted her trunk, smelt towards us, and then lifted her head up and opened her ears because she caught a whiff either of Liam's aftershave or of the car, and it's sort of strong smells of oil and gasoline. Liam doesn't actually wear aftershave, he doesn't shave. Hello, Christopher. You're all the way from the deserts of Arizona, and you say, do elephants sleep in herds or sleep alone? They don't sleep a great deal at all, Christopher, but this herd that you can see around us here of females and their youngsters, they will stay together just about permanently. They might split up every so often during the summer, but not during the winter. They will remain in this herd together. And sometimes they sleep. Like the little ones will have to sleep probably a few hours, well, maybe up to 8 hours for a very small elephant. But elephants largely don't sleep a great deal. And I think you'll find that if they were to sleep more than maybe 3 or 4 hours in a 24-hour period, that would be quite a lot. But they don't split up to sleep, Christopher. They will sleep, especially with little ones like this, for security in a big group. This is an absolutely incredible sighting. Look at that little thing throwing bits of wood on it. And the trunk is just not very useful at this stage for that elephant. You can see just learning to pick things up. It takes a long time for the coordination to develop. I think what's quite interesting is that, you know, of all the animals out here, the elephants are probably or the herbivores out here, the elephants have the slowest developmental time. They are dependent on their parents for the longest, much more than any of the other herbivores out here. And I think that's got a lot to do with their brain development. I think it's also got a lot to do with the fact that they, you know, it takes a while to coordinate that trunk. See them all just giving us a little bit of a look? I think they will probably eventually cross the road behind us. I'm not going to move the car now. I'm just going to stay here for a little while. Hello, Scott. Lovely to have you with us. And you say, does each herd get led by a matriarch? Yes, they do get led by a matriarch. Absolutely, Scott. It's one of the few matriarchal societies in the mammal world. The hyenas being the notable other one. I can't tell who the matriarch is of this particular herd. It might be this cow in front of us here. See how she's remaining sort of behind the rest of the herd to, I think, keep an eye on what our intentions are. But the matriarchal function here in the herd is very much one of mentoring and leading to, leading the rest of the herd to water and to grazing. It's got very little to do with sort of discipline and dominance. So in a hyena clan, for example, the matriarch is the most dominant hyena. She will monopolize feeding opportunities. She'll beat up the others quite strongly. Here come a whole lot more. Just wandering through here. Another cow and her calf. Whereas in an elephant herd, the role is very much that of mentor and that of helper, leading the other elephants to where it's good to eat and where it's good to drink. It's not a role of dominance. I'm thinking about moving, but the road is such an odd angle here. I will try and reposition slightly, everyone. I'll just see how this cow reacts. I don't want her to get upset with us. How's that, VMP? Is that better? Is that right? So I've just swung us round 45 degrees. Nobody's giving any indication of being threatened or being upset with us, so we can just sit here and enjoy for now. There, now she's talking. You see the one with her head up? She's just gone. She's made some kind of a sound which has been an indication to the others. I don't know what it means. I don't think anyone knows what it means. They know what it means. But it was definitely a case of she was looking at us, lifted her head, and made that sound either at us, could have been a warning to us, and could have been a warning to the others saying, just watch out. This is fantastic. This little one coming to see us now. Now you can see the tusks have just erupted there, so I'd say that's about a 2-year-old, maybe 2.5. Here comes this cow with the big tusks. She's coming past. She's enormous, you know, she really is big, about 4.5 tons. That's 4,500 kilograms. More than 10,000 pounds. And they all smell quite strongly of elephant. Betty, sleep along the lines of the question that Scott asked about the matriarchy of an elephant herd. You say if two herds met together, would the matriarchs have competition? No, they wouldn't. You see, it's not a dominance thing. So they wouldn't feel, I don't know exactly what the sort of emotional interaction would be, but they're very much not in a position of dominance so much as of leadership. And that means that there's not some sort of challenge for leadership. And what happens is that at this time of the year especially, they do meet up. Lots of herds meet up together, and the matriarchs do interact with each other, and the youngsters love it. You can see when two herds that are not that familiar with each other meet up, the youngsters run towards each other, and they really seem to enjoy saying hi to some sort of new friends. and then they'll move around together a little bit, especially during the winter when the when the water is very concentrated, and there's no competition at all. She's eating a jackalberry tree there, one that's been beaten up many times. You can see it's been broken a few times, and it's somehow managed to survive, as all these trees out here do. Now, if I was to guess, I would say that she was the matriarch of this herd. She's the one that's kind of staying between us and them. She's been watching us very carefully. She was in front of the herd, and she waited behind for the herd to cross the road, and she's kind of marshalling them, I think, telling them where's best next to go. And that, I think, everybody, is going to be our first elephant sighting for the day. Let's move along. I'll just keep you updated. You can see where that elephant's gone, and you saw where they came from. That's where Karula went in yesterday. She went wandering in there to hunt yesterday. Herbert is around here looking for the tracks. I haven't seen any tracks on the road, but I haven't been looking that carefully. Right, in the meantime, let's go across to Jamie, who's got something much smaller.
We're actually really lucky in this stunning dappled morning light. So we've got a steenbok that is relatively comfortable with our presence, relaxed a little bit and feeding away. Young male, only just starting to get its horns. You can see them, tiny little tips of them growing up from the top of its head. And like all of the animals out here, looking a bit chilly, a bit fluffy, trying to stay warm, looking for patches of sunlight, nibbling away at the base of all of the grasses to get the maximum possible nutrition. There you go, look at the little horns. He's so cute. And steenbok, I think, are definitely high up there on my favorite in terms of antelope species. They always look very clean. That white and then tan contrast. Large eyes and large ears. And if you have a look at the shape of its back, the way that it arches up like that. It's one of the big differences between steenbok and duiker. If you are unfamiliar with the different antelope of this area, they're both of a similar size. The steenbok is a much more red, or has a much more red tone to its fur. It's also got that arching back, slightly rounder than the straight back of a duiker. Now, our little friend was very comfortable with us, but if we try and reverse now to get another view, it's just going to run away, because then it becomes, it's basically reading our behavior, and then it becomes clear that we are focused on it, so it will just decide that actually discretion is much safer, and will probably run away further into this very thick woodland. There's parts of Cheetah Plains that are incredibly open. There's also parts of it that are relatively dense, and we're in the dense region, making our way south towards the Mala boundary to see what we can find there. And I think today we're on a cheetah search. That's the plan. We've done well with the big cats otherwise. Good morning to Bridge in London. You wanted to know a little bit about our different antelope species, and one in particular that we have yet to see on the live safari, but that we could actually encounter, and that is the sable antelope. A sable antelope we do get here. There's one that's very often seen on Nkoro. Sorry, Bridge, I'll get back to this in a moment. We appear to have a roadblock. I'm trying to work out how we're going to squeeze past this roadblock. terribly inconveniently placed landscaping ellies. I think we're going to have to squeeze through here, Dave. Oh, mind the VR rig. Okay, you ready for that to fling back towards you? Okay. Don't want to hurt you. Oh, there we go, well handled. Squeeze through. There we go. Magic. Right, so the sable antelope and its size difference in comparison to the other antelope, it's one of the biggest that we get out here. It falls under what's known as the horse antelope tribe. They are absolutely huge. They're probably about the size of a waterbuck, would be a rough comparison, with those enormous, for the males at least, the enormous backwards curving horns. Females also have horns, but they are not quite as impressive as that of the male. Now, for the first time in 18 years, a couple of months ago, a sable was seen on the Djuma Dam camera late at night. They're often seen around in Coral, which is not too far away from where we are now, but it's still something we're going to get incredibly excited about if we see them. There probably will be much excitement amongst us and all of the viewers in that particular scenario. It's just because they're rare for us, we never ever get to see them. But we could, and I think that the drought is going to dramatically increase our chances of encountering one, since they're going to have limited access to water resources, and they'll have to start moving through to the various pumped water holes. Now, strangely enough, Bridge, Mala Mala is named after sable, and that's because at one stage, in its natural state, this area was not teeming with sable, but definitely had lots and lots of sable around it. And it's only with the man-made dams and the influx of other large animals, large herbivores, that sable have actually been pushed out a little bit. That's one of our rarest, definitely, I'd say one of the most beautiful of all of the antelope, with its glistening black coat, deep brown to the point of being black. Obviously that's where the name sable comes from. Really, truly extraordinary looking antelope. And quite aggressive, strangely enough. I mean, not towards vehicles, obviously, but I've been charged twice by sable, once on horseback and once on foot. And it's quite a disconcerting experience, because you don't quite know. A lion charge, you know what to do. An elephant charge, you know what to do. But a sable charge is a bit more confusing. Luckily for me, my horse made up its mind for me, and off we went in the opposite direction. There was absolutely no controlling that. But these were captive bred sable. There's a lot of breeding programs for the rare antelope, and it's been one of the things that has saved antelope like the sable and the roan antelope, and kept their population at not a healthy number, but it has definitely improved things, because we were at the stage where it looked as though we were going to lose sable and roan from South Africa. Now, the interesting thing about where we are at the moment, we're on the southern boundary of Cheetah Plains. For those of you who are sending through questions, I may or may not hear them at this point. There's some crackly communication coming through from Final Control, and of course that's how we get your questions, as they get fed through our earpieces. So we can sort of hear. It sounded like James was doing something. I'm getting an update from Lou, but I have absolutely no idea what James is doing, so we'll keep on towards Cheetah Plains, or the plains of Cheetah Plains. Let's see if we can't find those cheetah. And while we carry on in that general direction, I was treated to probably one of the most extraordinary sightings I have ever seen in terms of lions mating yesterday. I've never encountered a situation where you have a female mating with a male, and then another female that has just had cubs, and that was the situation we had yesterday. And what was truly remarkable about that was the behavior exhibited by the mating female. So it was Amber Eyes from the Nkuhuma Pride, and the way that twice she did it, she mounted the other female, even going so far as to demonstrate, you know how that when the male mates with the female, he grabs the back of her neck. She was even doing that to the other female, and that is behavior that I have never encountered before. Now, you get a lot of what's known as mock mounting in nature, where an animal mounts another one, 2 male elephants, for example, or 2 male giraffe, and it's their way of demonstrating dominance. I don't think that's what was happening there, though. I think the hormones were confusing. I suppose you've got a lactating female with new cubs and then a female in estrus, and it just created a tremendously interesting situation. And we actually, in the end, found ourselves intervening in a way, not intentionally, but getting caught up in the love triangle between these 3 lions, the poor male looking terribly confused because the female would run away from him and then go and try and mate with the other female. And he just looked most perplexed at this situation. And what they ended up doing was the female and the male started trying to get around us, because the female was trying to ditch the male, and they were using our vehicle to do it. So the female would walk around one side of the car, he would walk around the front and block her. Then she'd try and go the other way, and he'd walk around that side and block her. It was the most extraordinary sighting. I've never been involved in a sighting like that before. Oh look, we're not alone. How unusual. We have a question coming through from one of our viewers in Oklahoma, and please forgive me, I think you might be called Kim. Ken, you're not called Kim at all, you're called Ken. I'm sorry, Ken in Oklahoma. Dave is helping me out here as well. You wanted Will the lions continue to mate throughout the night? Yes, absolutely, they will mate at night. Pretty much continuously. In summer, they actually probably do more mating at night than they do during the day because it's not nearly so hot. In winter, that's a slightly different situation, and they mate evenly throughout the day and throughout the night. That is, of course, unless Amber Eyes manage to, in the darkness, ditch the male and run off in search of her female companion. But lion mating continues about roughly... No, that's hyena, sorry, I thought I saw wild dog tracks, but it's hyena tracks. That behavior will continue roughly once every 15 to 20 minutes, every hour, all day, every day, for five or so days. It's quite an exhausting process, the mating process. The beautiful open area of Cheetah Plains. Let me just try and see what's over there. Don't think... Oh, the vehicle that was accompanying us has disappeared. There is a shape there off in the distance. I'm just going to... Dave, I couldn't begin to describe where it is. I'm just going to try and look through my binoculars. Let me maybe check first, just in case it's something else. It's a tree. It's a tree. It is a tree. I wanted to make sure before Dave zoomed in that it wasn't one of our other animals that we do not show. But it's not, it's a tree. Marvelous. Okay, well, we found a tree on Cheetah Plains. It's a start. Let's try and find some actual animals now. This is where I would be. If I were an animal right now, in midwinter, this is where I would be. Okay. Another question from an anonymous asker. Not anonymous, of course, I just can't hear your name, and I do apologize. I think it might have... D! Good morning, D. Why are our communications so crackly today? Anyway, D, you've asked a question that often fascinates me, and that's about the muscle tone of the bigger cats. Since they sleep so much, it's not like they're out training every morning like our human sports athletes. So how is it that they are able to maintain their level of fitness and do the things that they do when they spend most of their time sleeping? Very good question. It's one I've asked before, and I asked it where I was dealing with a captive, not a captive cheetah. It had been removed from a farm and put into a boma so that it got used to the area before being released into the wild. And I asked the vet at the time, surely this creature's going to become very unfit and not be able to hunt once it's released. And apparently their muscle tone is completely different to that of a human being. Their muscles are actually really floppy, believe it or not, when you touch them. And I've been fortunate enough to handle all of the big cats whilst they've been anesthetized for various reasons. When you touch their muscles, you expect them to be like steel, rock hard like an athlete. It's not. It's soft and squishy. And that's because it's a different type of muscle tissue that doesn't lose condition. But then, of course, all of our big cats are not, they're not exactly marathon runners. They are sprinters. They have short bursts of energy that cannot be maintained for much longer than a couple of 100 meters. Some of the longest chases I've seen have probably been lions. They chased for up to 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers, a couple of miles. But they really generally, all of the big cats are explosive predators. They explode with that dash of burst of speed, and then they stop. Which is why they're very, you'll see a lot of the time when we've seen lots and lots of attempted hunts. Most of the time they are aborted before they even start. So the animal immediately knows, obviously through practice, that this isn't going to work, we're not going to manage to be successful, so we're not going to waste the energy in doing it. But it is a fascinating thing that the animals are able to maintain that level of conditioning, considering they don't really train for it. They don't even stretch and warm up. Did you get that, Dave? No, me neither. Sorry everybody. I think Bridge is asking, while we search for our cheetah in this open area, it's Bridge from the United Kingdom. I think Bridge is asking whether or not we've ever seen king cheetah. I think that was it. Well, Bridge, I have seen a king cheetah before. Hey, we got it right. We're basically going to do this in a slightly more complicated manner. Yes, so Bridge, I have seen a king cheetah. I have only ever seen a king cheetah in a breeding facility. It's one of those weird things. It's a naturally occurring genetic mutation, but it's very, very rare. It's kind of like the melanistic leopards that James was talking about earlier. But what human beings have done, because cheetah in general are actually a species that are slowly working their way towards a natural extinction, but unfortunately that's been helped out by human beings through habitat loss and so on. So we've had the same impact on cheetahs as we've had on all other animals. But a lot of the breeding centers seem to think that trying to breed up the number of king cheetah is the way forward. I'm not entirely sure. So a king cheetah has just got extra levels of melanin. It's got bigger spots, almost to the point of being stripes, much, much darker in color. I don't necessarily see that favoring that genetic line. I sort of feel as I do about white lion breeding. It's more for a human desire to see something different than it is about necessarily doing any good for the cheetah population itself. Hello, little Koki Franklins. Aren't they so terribly pretty? Oh, the male's ducked behind a tree. Lovely example of the dimorphism. That's the female that Dave is showing you there. I think they're probably some of the prettiest Franklin that we get here. Really subtle colouring. And then the male, with his bright orange head, is playing hard to get. But I think he's about to come into view now. There he is. Actually, I think it might be quite a young one. Doesn't have that completely orange coloration that the males get at full, when they're full grown. It's got little funny tufts on the top of its head. Got a little white spot. Creak goes Rusty. Alrighty. While I try and figure out what on earth is going on with my radio communications, I believe that James would like to give you an update. So let's head across to Wendy and we'll catch up with you later.
Right, well, we found tracks of the Queen and a cub or two knocking about just over there, and we couldn't really tell where they went. So Liam and I went for a short walk. We headed off into the western block. We found one more track, but nothing else. We then came back to the road and we found the tracks heading this way, which is east. Anyway, we put Herbert onto the tracks, and he, of course, will be able to tell exactly where they've gone. So we'll just check around here for a bit, see what else we can find. We might be lucky. He also thought he heard some lions around the Twin Dams region, so we'll just check around here for a while, and then we'll go back towards Twin Dams, and maybe we'll be lucky with some lions. It is a glorious morning. It really is absolutely stunning, but it is crisply cold, and there's some strange clouds building in the west, which is no.
Leopard tracks on the left.
Leopard tracks on the left, and what do you suppose that is? I think Herbert may have lost a tyre.
BF Goodrich 215.
A BF Goodrich 215. Brilliant, thanks for that, Liam. Herbert, you copy Herbert? We better just tell him about that. Herbert, du lasse a spare tyre. Lega Treehouse Dam Road. So Herbert was around here, obviously, as evidenced by his spare tyre, and he's walked up and down here. He followed the tracks down towards the south, and then he found a whole lot of impala, so he didn't think that they'd gone down there. Anyway, you know what these leopards are like. They're all over the place, and 9 times out of 10 we find them, well, simply by bumping them. The last time we did see them, though, Herbert did find them on foot, so it is you've got a highly skilled tracker like him, it really does make a difference. Ooh, there's some birds for him. I know you love filming birds in the morning. There's a fork-tailed drongo, and if you watch it carefully, yeah, try that one there, Jim. Beastly irritating birds moving around. Look at the lovely colours on that stunning starling. That's a Cape glossy starling or a greater blue-eared glossy starling. It's very difficult to tell unless it calls. Looking for insects and things. Now, if I heard your question correctly, Soraya and Dr. Rob, you want to know which organisms, if I'm right in saying this. In fact, I'm just going to ask Louise to read it again to me, because it's quite a complex question, I think, and I don't want to get it wrong. Which organisms are the most well camouflaged and able to hide out here? Well, I mean, in terms of the mammals, definitely the leopards are exceptionally good at hiding from things. They are definitely the ones that seem to be able to hide more easily than anything else. But I think that you'll find there are many, many different kinds of insects that are far better able to hide. And to my mind, the mantids, those praying mantises that live on some of those Waltheria flowers and various other flowers, that they're kind of specifically evolved to live on one specific type of flower. And those, to me, would be the most cryptically coloured and most impossible to see. And there's that big tree there, Vimpy. Simply because I thought I saw some slightly discoloured piece of the tree. And indeed I did. It is a slightly discoloured piece of tree, but it is not a leopard that is discolouring the tree. We'll carry on. So far, everybody, only one big cat has been seen, and that was on Buffelshoek, and it disappeared into a drainage line. That was a male leopard. We don't know who that was, which would be quite interesting. We haven't seen Tingana for a long time, and Viam is getting horrible withdrawal symptoms from seeing his friend. Viam, when are you going on leave?
Wednesday.
So you're going on leave on Wednesday, everybody, so hopefully we'll be able to see Tingana before then. Well, and Viam will be very sad. We'll just stop on the top of the dam wall here and have a listen, see what we can see, bathe ourselves in the sun slightly. We don't know where those lions have gone. Aubrey's trying to find the lions from last night. There are some waterbuck, Liam. They're a long way away. Let's keep going round. We won't stop here. We'll just keep going round the corner there. They're in there somewhere. They're just round here. Waterbuck in the morning. I still haven't found your strychnos tree, everybody, despite the fact that they grow in such thickets here. I will find one, I promise. They're cryptically coloured, obviously, this morning, hiding, because they know the disdain I hold for them. Right, here are the waterbuck. I'll be slightly disappointed to find that there is no water in Treehouse Dam, I'm sure. There we are. There we go. They've got just such a lovely fur, these chaps. I've always thought for a winter fur, if I was going to be an animal, a waterbuck has got the best. They just don't like being around us very much, do they, VM?
No. Can't blame them.
Why not? Speak for yourself. There we are. Oh, they are really trying to get away from us. Those are the youngsters. Little ones. I always think they look like little donkeys when they're born. And the elephants that we saw earlier, you may have just heard that crack in the bush. And that was one of the branches breaking as the elephants we saw earlier are coming this way. They're heading towards the dam. They might do a little bit of excavating there. We do know that they dig quite well, especially when they can feel water flowing under the ground, and there seems to be water flowing under the ground at Treehouse Dam. But I don't think Karula's actually particularly close to where we are now. I just have that feeling. So we'll go off towards Twin Dams and see if we don't pick up on the lions that Herbert thought he heard calling around there earlier on. Twin Dams, of course, the coldest section of the reserve because it's the lowest section of the reserve. A very nice question from Kathy in Tennessee, and it's actually something I've been giving thought to myself. She said it's obvious when a male lion territory becomes taken over by another coalition, as it was with the Birminghams. The Matimbas ran away. They were found further south of us, and the Birminghams were suddenly the flavour of the month. And Kathy, you're wondering how on earth you tell when a male leopard has lost his territory. Kathy, not with much ease. It's very difficult to tell if a male lion or male leopard's lost his territory. We didn't realize that Mvula had lost his territory until suddenly he wasn't found around here anymore and he was found somewhere else. And that was over sort of a period of a few months or so. So Tingana's missing. Now, Tingana's in his prime. The only thing that's going to make Tingana lose his territory is if something kills him. And I don't think that's happened. It's not unusual that we shouldn't have seen him for this period. So I wouldn't worry about that. But what would happen is that suddenly you would start seeing other male leopards. So let's pretend, God forbid, that Tingana had been killed by something, maybe a lion or something like that. If he had been killed, listen to all these birds. It's these white-crested helmet shrikes coming towards us. There you can see one or two. Ah, it's lovely. And there's one sitting right out in the open there. Far left. Yeah, left. Yeah, you got him. Well, there's a chagra. I think, what is that? No, it's one of the white-crested helmet shrikes. Brilliant stuff. So, Kathy, you would eventually then just start seeing other male leopards where you used to see Tingana. And those other male leopards would be calling, they'd make a noise, and, you know, that's how you'd know. But it wouldn't be obvious like it is. You're absolutely right when a lion territory takeover happens. And I also think that it's quite possible that there could be like a temporary takeover almost, where, you know, I don't know, the leopard might go off exploring somewhere else, find another male leopard's come into his territory and slowly regain it. I don't think it's quite as clear-cut as we tend to think it is always. Isn't that nice? Listen to them talking to each other. They're a very, very closely knit family. And they're just keeping in contact with each other. I used to think this was some kind of alarm call, but I don't think it is. They've been doing this since we saw them. We saw the same flock yesterday at the bottom of this road, and then just before we got off to look at those leopard tracks, we saw them halfway up this road. And now it's the same one foraging in a northerly direction, just scanning the leaves of these strychnos bushes all around us here. These are all horrible strychnos bushes, and if you have a child with a birthmark that is disfiguring, remember this apparently is the tree that it is used to cure that problem. Alright, let's go across to Jamie and find out what she's got.
Don't have anything really except for still relatively crackly communications, but we have arrived at the very much totally dry Buffalo Dam, the sort of top corner of our traverse on Cheetah Plains. And I always feel whenever I come here, first of all it's really beautiful and it's got some lovely old jackalberries and leadwoods, but it just always seems like such a perfect spot for a leopard to be hiding away somewhere. Although if I were a leopard in this weather, I'd be looking for the best patch of sun possible to warm up. But otherwise, Cheetah Plains today is relatively quiet. I haven't even seen any tracks of anything wandering through. Let's continue our investigation. We're about to pop out into what's known as Nkoro open area. We're not on Nkoro, we're just south of it. There's a beautiful open spot. Now Dave thinks he saw something moving on back towards south, towards the Mala Mala boundary, so we're going to do a big loop and then head towards that direction, if we can't figure out what it was. By the way, we did spend a considerable period of time. We spotted something on a termite mound that looked totally out of place. I was convinced it was a kill or even something man-made that had been left on a stump. It wasn't. It was a piece of bark that was haloed in the morning light that looked like it really looked like a dead inyalo, but it was a tree that had fallen over and the bark had peeled back. But it's amazing how something like that that's very clearly out of place immediately jumps out at you when you're driving through the bush. I also really, really like this part of Cheetah Plains with its bright red soils. There's a lot more. That red color comes from the iron in it, and it's essentially because there's a little bit less rainfall in this area. One of the reasons is because, apart from the underlying geology, there's a little bit less rainfall in this part of Cheetah Plains, which means the soils don't get leached as much as they do towards Djuma and the other parts of our traverse area. They maintain this beautiful red color. And of course, while we drive along here, I'm always hopeful for a chance to see Inkanyeni and her cubs, since I haven't managed to do that yet, or Quarantine, or Shimbambalana. All three of those leopards I have yet to encounter. Now, they're on my list of animals I really, really want to see. Just something interesting. Sorry. Something I don't think we've seen yet on Cheetah Plains is a hyena. And yet the place is full of middens. There's evidence of them absolutely everywhere. Their tracks are everywhere. And we're trying to work out if Cheetah Plains falls under the territory of the Djuma clan, or if it's a little bit far, and if there's another clan that is maybe Kruger-based that moves through here. There's an old hyena den site somewhere in this area, but there's no active dens as far as we know, but I'm quite keen to see hyena as well. We're still getting to grips with the dynamics of Cheetah Plains. Okay, come on, Beanie. Stop trying to cover my eyes. It's not going to help at all. But what it does mean is because there's been very little water in this area with the red soils, the grasses are not particularly nutritious. And then we start to move out towards the clearing and you see the better grasses growing once again. And back onto the open area that serves as the boundary between our Traverse area and Nkoro, the lodge or piece of land that is directly to the north of us here. Surprised that the clearings are so devoid of animals. I would have expected them to all be here warming up, since there's no more wind. Oh, but the lapwings are having a bit of an argument. A bit of a territorial dispute happening. Well done, Dave. Very vocal birds, absolutely not afraid of a confrontation. What on earth are you fussing about? Well, they've been terribly up. I think it's a dispute between several different pairs of lapwings. That's what's got them making such a fuss. Whoa! Their aerial acrobatics is quite astounding. Look at that landing. Perfect. Okay. Dispute settled. We can move on. That's a noise. The cry of a crowned lapwing is the sound I will always associate with my childhood, with walking through school fields and running away from the lapwings dive bombing you as a child, and especially growing up in Johannesburg. And Dave, you also grew up in Johannesburg. Yeah. Will be forever that is what I always, it brings back those memories so clearly. And it was always a winter morning somehow. Those really cold, high felt mornings, which are definitely colder than our mornings here. You wrapped up in your school uniform dodging lapwings. Okay, a thorough check of the clearings has been carried out. There's no tracks. I think most things have been hiding away just because of the wind. Right, let's go. While we head back towards where Dave saw movement, let's go back over to James, find out how he's doing on Djuma.
I'm interested that there is a wind on Cheetah Plains. Here it is completely still. I don't know why the animals would be hiding, other than perhaps not so much for the wind, but for the cold. And I described the other day how, you know where we should go. I described how taking game lives in the middle of a little bit difficult. Sorry about that, everybody. We are in the Twin Dams region, and signal can be a little dodgy here. Now, if I was a lion and I wanted to sort of enjoy my Monday morning, I'd probably be sitting on top of that wall, absorbing the sun, and maybe roaring a little bit. So let's go and see if that's what they're doing. This is roundabout where Herbert thought he heard the soft call. Not the roar, but a call of a lion. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And those other two that we saw yesterday, oh, I'm just listening to Herbert. Karula's crossed south, out of the property, I'm afraid. Just listening. Yeah, with the babies. So unfortunately, that's that for that search. The two lionesses, I think, have been found on Torchwood, fast asleep. There were 3 yesterday lurking around the Gari cut line with Jamie, and I don't know where the third one is. We haven't found her tracks yet. So I don't know. It's all rather confusing. Right, let us pretend we are male lions, Viam. Oh, I can hear Boone's alarm calling. There. You hear the baboons? There, you can hear them now. Bow! Bow! I think they can see that male lion. That unfortunately is south of the boundary where we're allowed to go. So we can't go there. But the male lion, well, it can absolutely go there, and I suspect that's precisely what it's done. It's just very nice sitting here in the sun, isn't it, Viam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Defrosting.
Yes, defrosting. Ah. Right, on we go. Enough messing about the place. Michael, I think you had a question about male lion coalitions and when it is, how often the takeovers happen. Normally, Michael, a male lion can hold a territory for sort of 2.5 to 3 years. And in the case of the Birminghams, they may have held on to a bit longer. The Majingalan coalition has managed to hold on to their territory for, I think, almost 5 or 6 years now. They're in the western sector of Sabi Sand, so that is quite unusual. But they seem to be...
Oh, it seems as though we lost James there. We do have some lovely, if somewhat nervous, kudu. I'm trying to work out what's got them so upset, because they're not really looking at... They are looking at us, obviously, but they also keep looking off into the distance to the east of them. And something's unsettled them. It might just be because they're in an open area, and as an animal that is geared towards hiding in dense vegetation... Oh, I see the reason. I think I know exactly what's bothering. There, he's coming out now. Hello, boy. Are you tormenting the ladies? You're causing them distress. I think we have a courting kudu bull. Wait, ladies, wait! I'm coming! Wait for me! Slowing to a sedate but eager. Oh no, eager trot, eager trot. A couple of little ones there as well. Oh, caught up. And in the distance, a ground hornbill calling somewhere. Okay, he's caught up with the lady I think he was aiming for. She doesn't seem terribly impressed by his intentions, but he's going to try anyway. Oh. Have a good sniff. I'm going to get a Fleming grimace. Yes, little Fleming grimace. And immediately she instinctively lifts her tail. She might even urinate in response. But I think he's a little bit eager. I'm not sure she's all that keen on his attentions. Keeping pace with her. Well, I think we probably have found the reason for their slight jumpiness. Like most male antelope, a male kudu, when faced with the prospect of a female coming into estrus, can get a little bit, how do I put it, over-enthusiastic. Maybe a little bit pushy is perhaps another way of describing it. We've seen the impala chase the females around endlessly over the last few months. And kudu don't have a strict breeding season, but a lot of them are coming into estrus now so that they can time the birth of their babies with our wet season, where they have the most access to resources. Alright, let's keep our eyes peeled in the trees or on the ground for that hornbill that is calling. It's the biggest species of hornbill that occurs here, the southern ground hornbill. Kook, 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 kook. Kook, 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 kook. We see them very often along the southern boundary of Cheetah Plains, so they're here somewhere. One of our most critically endangered bird species. I think they're a little bit more towards the boundary. Last time I was on these open clearings, the wind was howling across the plains. It was thoroughly unpleasant. This is a totally different experience. It's beautiful, and now much, much warmer than when we first started. Okay, Dave, am I going to veer right or left here? Just left. Perfect, thank you. Let's see if we can't figure out what was there. And when we're finished double checking where Dave spotted movement, we have a giraffe that's going to slowly make its way towards us. Awesome, look how they stick out like that. That's really, really cool. I love these open areas. They are all the way in the distance there. Gives me a chance to listen for the hornbill as well. A giraffe and her offspring by the looks of it. Mammoth size difference between the two. All the way on Mana Mana. And slowly making their way across to Cheetah Plains. Oh, look at the little one. Still got that disproportionate look that baby giraffe have. Slightly stumpier necks, but legs almost as long as mom. And it makes them look very strange in comparison. Wonderful. Okay. We'll wait for them to make their way a bit closer. I think they are going to. They've spotted us. Let's see where they go. While we wait, let's go investigate.